In this video, we're going to look at how to set up Compliance Taafi for the first time. To get started, you're going to want to install Microsoft SQL Server or Microsoft SQL Server Express, and you're going to want to install Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, which is what we see here. SQL Server Management Studio and SQL Server Express are both available for free from Microsoft. Also, you're going to want to plan where you want to put your database file, that is, what drive and folder. I'm going to start by going to Connect, Database Engine, and I'm going to select my server and SQL Server instance. Your values may differ. To keep things simple, you'll want to use Windows authentication to connect to the database. If you're more experienced with SQL Server, then you can use SQL Server authentication. I'm going to connect to the database. Here you can see that I do not have any databases. So I need to create my database. I'm going to right click on databases and select New Database. I'm going to give the database a name. And I want to specify the path for the database file and logs. Now I have specified my path for the database file and for the logs. I'm going to click OK, and it will create the database. All of the other values you can leave as defaults. Now I'm going to start Compliance Taafi, and you'll be presented with this screen. I'm going to click Select Database, and I'm going to click Create New Database. Here you have a script that you can use to create all of the tables and everything else necessary to run Taafi in the database. I'm going to copy the script, and here I'm going to select New Query, and I want to make sure that this drop down has the database that I'm going to use for Taafi. And I'm going to paste the script into the query window, and I'm going to click this Execute button to run the script. And now I can look at the tables and see all of the tables in the database. Back in this dialog in Taafi, I can connect to the database. I'm going to specify my server name and SQL Server instance and the database name. The username and password are for SQL Server authentication, and you can leave those blank if you're using Windows authentication. Down here is my final connection string. Connection strings are an advanced topic beyond the scope of this video, but typically what is set as the default value is going to work for you. I can click this button to test the connection. Now I can log into the database using the default login of admin with no password. It's important to understand that there's two different levels of credentials when you're using Taafi with the database. In this dialog, we're looking at the Taafi credentials. This is the Taafi login and the Taafi password. You're using Windows authentication to actually connect into the database, into SQL Server itself. Here I have logged into Taafi. One of the first things you're going to want to do is go to the Roles view and add any roles. The various Taafi entities are assigned to roles, and then users are assigned to roles, and that's how those entities get associated with specific users. It's installed with the default role, but you probably want to use others. You'll go to the Users view to start adding users to the database. So to summarize the steps for setting up Taafi, you want to make sure that you've installed SQL Server or SQL Server Express and SQL Server Management Studio. You'll want to go into SQL Server Management Studio and create the database. Then you're going to go to Taafi and get the script to create all of the Taafi entities in the database. Then you'll be able to log into the database through Taafi. At that point, you'll want to add your roles and add your users. Then you will be ready to start managing your compliance activities.